Senhoras e senhores, recebam mais uma vez, com muita animação, a nossa palestrante internacional que veio lá dos Estados Unidos diretamente para conversar com vocês. E agora, no final da palestra dela, vocês também terão a oportunidade para perguntas. Nós vamos fazer perguntas do público para a Lídia. E ela vai compartilhar um pouco a história dela com vocês, que é muito inspiradora. Senhoras e senhores, recebam Lydia Crowder. Welcome to Lydia.
Podemos acompanhar Lydia Crowder falando sobre as técnicas mais avançadas que podemos utilizar no drywall. Hoje, ela vai colocar a mão na massa. Vamos conhecer todas as dicas e truques que esta fera aplica em seu dia a dia.
É isso aí, coloquem os seus fones, lembrando que nós temos duas opções. Em uma frequência você ouve a Lídia no áudio original, passando para o lado aí no seu fone você tem a opção de ouvir a tradução. A Lídia vai ficar com o fone para que ela possa receber a tradução da pergunta de vocês ao final também. Então, não necessariamente você precisa falar inglês. Eu sou igual a Isa no começo da palestra, só sei falar thank you, welcome, just a little words. Então, você também não precisa saber falar inglês. Você pode fazer a sua pergunta do seu jeito, que ela vai entender, porque alguém vai estar traduzindo aqui para ela, tá bom? Seja muito bem-vinda, Lídia. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to go ahead and talk kind of through my life story, how I got started in the trades, and then some things that I've definitely had to overcome along the way. So what percentage do you think of women are employed in the construction industry today? 20%, 15%, 30%? Statistics show it's only 6.2% of women are employed in the construction industry. And then when you get to women that actually are working in the field, it's even lower. So how did I get started in the trade, and how did I turn into being a professional drywaller with 21 years in the field? So it all started with my dad, Brett. He has been doing drywall for over 30 years. He started with a small company in Atlanta where he was doing all the smooth wall touch-up stuff. So I was born in 1984 on August 15th. And then at the time, my dad was actually doing apartment maintenance. So he was like fixing things, going through, doing like small repairs on apartments, kind of just a little jack of all trades. So then my sister was born in 1986, and then we relocated to Lilburn, Georgia. And then, so it's just a little bit north of Atlanta, Georgia, if you've ever heard of Atlanta. So we moved there, and then my dad started working for a big company there, and he did all sorts of patchwork for them. So he learned kind of the ins and the outs of drywall, and it's a great place to start. You learn so much just doing patchwork all the time. And then he was self-employed for most of my childhood. After he had done the patchwork, he went ahead and then moved on to having his own company where he was self-employed. He would also be delivering pizzas on the side and doing all sorts of extra jobs to try and make ends meet, because he was the only person that had an income in our family at the time. So it was my sister and I, and then my mom stayed home, and then my dad had all the income on his shoulders. So as hard as it was, he always made sure everything was taken care of for us. He used to have this old truck that had bungee cords on the side to keep the doors shut. So that was always fun when he would pick us up from school with the bungee cord truck. And then he would have me go to work with him sometimes. I would go and like scrape floors, spot screws, do little tasks for him. So I was always kind of involved in the trades, even as a little kid. So he would pay me in like candy or kind of do something fun with me for the day. So that was always, it was always fun. Like he always made work fun, always made the environment fun. And I loved that he took me with him being a little girl and let me kind of like experience what the construction industry was. So then when I was 10, we relocated to Bozeman, Montana. Has anybody seen Yellowstone? Everybody see Yellowstone? Anybody know about Yellowstone? So that's where I am. I am right in that area. And we moved there when I was 10. So it was small still. It was still very little. It was under 30,000 people with the population. So coming from Atlanta, Georgia, which is huge, it's a huge city, we moved to Bozeman, and I thought we were literally going to be riding horses to school. I had no idea where it was on the map, where we were moving to, what we were getting ourselves into. So my dad actually hooked up with another taper in the area, and then he learned how to use all the automatic tools. So when we moved up there, he had just been doing small patchwork, handwork, all that sort of stuff. So he met another taper, and he taught him all the automatic tools. So everything we saw yesterday, he learned when he moved to Bozeman. So he actually grew his company, and then he wound up having about 5 to 6 employees pretty consistently because we were doing such large jobs. So he had about 5, 6, sometimes 7 employees. So it was really cool to see him grow from doing all this small patchwork to then growing a big company and having all automatic tools. So I went to high school at Bozeman High. We had one of the largest graduating high school classes. We had over 500 students, and for a town of 30,000 at the time, that was a huge class. High school for me was tough. Did anybody like school? Everybody hates school. I was not like school. So I was always making up excuses to skip class, finding ways to not actually be in school. And one of the great things was with our high school, you could leave and go work after school and still get credit for your class. So I started working really young. I was about 15 when I had my first job, and I would walk to work every day and just try and put my head down and get my stuff done. And that's really one thing I learned from my dad, is you really have to work hard, especially in construction. Like, you cannot stop. So he always had a great work ethic for me. So so I worked there. I worked at like a burger joint, and then I worked at another place where I was selling really expensive art pieces and bronze works. So I had some experience in sales, and then they promoted me to another position where I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to open the airport. So that one didn't last very long. I was 18 at the time and quickly quit. Being 18 and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning is not really fun for anyone. So one major thing that happened in my life was when I was 17, I was a senior in high school, and I was in a very, very serious car accident. So my friend and I were driving down the road. She was driving, and she was going 65 miles an hour, so 104 kilometers. And there was a guy that pulled out right in front of us, and then we hit him pretty much head on. So my side of the vehicle took all of the impact. It was so severe, they actually had to use the jaws of life to remove us from the vehicle. So they had to cut us out completely to actually get us out. In the accident, I was not wearing a seatbelt, and I flew into the dash. So when flying into the dash, it split my head wide open. So I actually had 45 stitches right up here in my forehead. I had 15 inner and then 30 outer stitches with that laceration. I broke a couple ribs. I lacerated my liver so badly they thought they were going to have to do emergency surgery. And then I also had a collapsed lung. So being 17 and going through a pretty much near-death experience definitely changed my outlook on life. I was in the ICU, so our intensive care unit, for 3 days. I was a little touch and go there. They weren't sure if they were going to need to airlift me to a bigger hospital. And then I was in the regular hospital for about 2 days, so 5 days total. It took me over a month to recover from the accident. It was just so much physical damage and physical pain. But one thing that I learned going through that is I'm so much stronger than I thought I was. There's nothing like getting in a super serious car accident and almost dying to really kind of change your perspective on life, especially being 17. So that was definitely one of the things that, when I look back, was so life-changing for me, because it really changed my perspective on how to appreciate every day. You never know what you're going to be given, and you never know what tomorrow's going to bring to you. So when we got in that car accident, the guy that hit us had no car insurance, and he also had no driver's license. So he took us to court. So my friend and I had to testify in front of a judge, and he was his own lawyer. So that was another fun experience, because he just kind of grilled us and said it was all of our fault, and it was really hard for my friend, but we got through it, we made it through. So I was able to graduate high school in the spring of 2002, that was after the car accident, and then I enrolled at our local college. I should have known better. I hate school. I don't know why I thought it would be a good place to start, but it was what everyone was doing. So in our town, we have a local university called Montana State University. So pretty much everybody graduates high school and enrolls directly into the local college. So I just went ahead and did what everybody else was doing. I moved in with a guy that worked for my dad. His name was Zach. So I was going to school, I was working the retail job, and then I was also kind of still helping out doing the drywall stuff with my dad and with Zach. So it was actually working out pretty well. I flunked out of college the first semester, no surprise. So I went ahead and got a job, just kind of doing like some menial things. I was doing the airport job, and then I was also working at a gas station. So that's how I got started in the trades. Like, my dad saw that I was struggling. I wasn't doing well with school. I had some really boring jobs. So one day, I just out of the blue, he was like, do you want to come and work for me and do drywall? I said, yes, absolutely, yes. I would love to come work for you. So that's the start. I was 18 when he asked me. In my mind, it was supposed to be like all fun and, you know, candy and hang out with my friends and like joke around and just kind of have like, you know, just make it fun. I couldn't have been further from the truth. It was so hard. I remember the first month that I worked for my dad, I would come home every single day after working construction and just fall asleep on the couch at like 7 o'clock. I think people don't realize how physically taxing construction work is on your body, especially drywall. When you first start, everything is so heavy. It's so hard. You're lifting mud boxes that are 45, 50 pounds all day. Your pan can weigh, 10 pounds. So you really have to give yourself some time to figure out, okay, can I do this? Can I push myself past this? And you just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's an amazing job. So I started with him and haven't looked back since. I worked with a crew of about, at the time, I think it was about 5 guys, and they were all so nice. They were so encouraging. They would let me try things. They would let me mess up. They would let me fail, which is such an important part of learning the trades, especially drywall. You're gonna fail, and you're gonna fail a lot. So it was just such an awesome and rewarding community with those guys, and they were just so fun to work with. So I met my husband when I was 19, so I've been working with my dad for about a year. It was a blind date. One of my friends set us up, and I didn't think that we were going to get along at all. So we've been together now for, 21 years now, I think. So we met when we were 19, and then we met on a blind date. He actually had to ride his bike to the date, so that was fun. And I actually put his I put his bike in my truck when we left. And we still kind of joked to that this day. Like, I gave him a ride home and his bike was in the back of my truck. So it definitely was a little bit interesting. So we met then, and then he asked me out on a date a couple days later, and since then we've been inseparable. So we've worked together for over 19 years, and we've been together for over 21 years. So we were dating for a little bit. He kind of had some like hit and miss jobs. So I asked my dad if he could come work for us. And my dad said, yeah, that would be great. So I actually got him his first job in the drywall industry. And then I also trained him and taught him how to use most of the tools. So it's a little unusual. It's usually the guy that brings in the girl, but we were a little opposite this time with me bringing him into the trade. So we started working together, and then we moved in together. And that was interesting. If you're working together all day and then living together all day, you definitely don't get any separate space. So it was a little interesting trying to figure out how we weren't going to kill each other and then also get our work done and then keep going together. So after we've been living together for about 7 months, I was 20 and Ryan was 21 when I found out I was pregnant with our daughter, Alexis. So I was extremely young when I had her. She actually just turned 19 the other day. So her birthday was on Monday. So she's now 19. She's an adult. It was definitely interesting. So at the time, my husband was in some legal trouble. He was in trouble with the police and he was on probation. So I was 20, he was 21, and he was looking at pretty serious jail time. So that was definitely very eye-opening for me as an individual looking at being a single mother. What does this look like? I'm 20 years old, I'm pregnant. Thankfully, he was able to turn it all around, and he actually was sober for over 10 years. So that was pretty amazing. Real feat of him trying and showing that he could do what needed to be done for his family. So he was still working drywall at the time. He was working for my dad. So I was pregnant, I stopped working, and then had my daughter on April 22nd. I was super young, so there were some complications, but she was born via C-section, and she was absolutely so healthy. So my mom watched my kids for me while we started working, and we were still working for my dad. And then, let's see, we got married at 20. I was 20. So a couple months after she was born, we got married. We just went to the courthouse, had a super simple ceremony, got it over and done with. Just a couple days before my 21st birthday. So I was 20 when we were married, and he was 22. And then Ryan kept working for my dad. He actually turned into a foreman for everybody, so he would run the jobs. He would run the crews. He would make sure the builders were set. He would make sure everything was going well on the jobs. And it was really good. Like, everything was really good. We were making good money. We were pretty content. We had our daughter Alexis. And then we actually wound up buying our first house at 21. So everything was just great. Business was great. I found out I was pregnant with my son Michael. So I got pregnant at 21 with him, and then had him at 22. And then we bought our house, and it was kind of tough. Like, our market was definitely tough then. Construction was really, really good. So housing prices were high, but we just thought everything would keep going forever, that construction would keep going forever, and that everything would be fantastic. Well, it was not. Everything crashed in the United States in about 2008 and 2009, like completely crashed. So we'll get to that in a minute. So after I had my son Michael, we had a huge plaster job. So I went back to work about 2 months after having my son. And the plaster job is one of the only jobs I have had completely fail. Like, absolutely horrible. I could just want to cry. We were using a product called American Clay, which is a clay-based plaster, and they had a new bonder that you could put in the plaster. Well, it didn't work. So we're on this, $2-3 million home, completely fails. The plaster is falling off of the walls, and it was a disaster, just absolute disaster. And then the homeowner came in, and we had an interior designer on the job. She okayed all of the colors, okayed all of the plaster. Homeowner came in and said, "It's not what I want at all. I hate this color. I don't want this." So we have the plaster failing, and then we have an unhappy homeowner. Thankfully, we were able to fix the color situation and fix all the plaster falling off the walls, but that was a really tough experience at 22, having like a job that I'm running completely go sour. I learned a lot after that. I learned that I need to have people sign off on things way better, and then I need to kind of like check in and kind of like run the jobs a little bit better too. So we didn't do a lot of plaster after that. It was such a bad experience. We just kind of let it go to the side. And that one was tough. So in 2008, my husband and I decided to start our own business. Economy was still doing okay then, so we were like, let's go off on our own. We've been in the trade about 5 or 6 years, and that's kind of the dangerous spot if you are a drywall finisher or even in construction. That 5 to 6 year mark gets you kind of in trouble. So we're like, yeah, we can do it. We're prepared. We're ready. No, we were not ready at all. The economy crashed, and we actually wound up losing our house. So it was about 2010, I believe, when we had to wind up selling it. And we actually were homeless for a while. So when we sold our house, we had no place to go, nowhere. We couldn't go to my parents' house. They just live in like a 3-bedroom condo. Ryan's parents weren't living there, and we were gone. Like, we had 2 young kids, no money, no income. I was working at State Farm at the time, so I actually took an insurance job, and Ryan was going to college. So our only options were be homeless. So we actually wound up moving in with some friends that had a really large house. We knew them from church, and they were like, come live with us. You guys can stay with us for a couple months, and we'll help you get you back on your feet, which was incredible. Being homeless is not fun. We were on food stamps. We were on government assistance. And it was really hard to come from this place where like we had a new truck, we had a great house, we have kids, everything's going great, and then it all just got pulled out from underneath us. So Ryan was going to college at the time, and it got to the point where I was like, you need to go back to doing drywall. Things that started picking back up. I wasn't happy working in insurance. He wasn't happy at college. So he actually got a job with a local drywall company and started to kind of get back into the swing of things. After a little bit, we started bidding jobs, and we were able to get some really good jobs. So I was able to quit my job in insurance and then go back to working with him. So the tough part about that is we got a really big builder. He was doing a fourplex about every 3 weeks. So the two of us would do an entire fourplex. So there were 4 individual units. They were about 600 boards, which is a lot. We had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get 600 boards done. So we essentially were working all the time. We were working Monday through Sunday. Most Sundays we were working until 2 o'clock in the morning because we had to get the job done because the other trades were going to start laying floor. So we had young kids at the time. We're trying to pick ourselves back up. We have an apartment to rent. We're just trying to make ends meet. And it got exhausting. And Ryan actually got injured. So we were doing some spraying. We use big sprayers when we spray our texture. And he had the gun a little too close to his hand and actually injected himself with drywall mud into his finger. So if you inject anything into your finger, thankfully it wasn't paint, but the drywall mud actually soaked into his tissue. It was the weirdest injury because there was no blood. It was just injected into his tissue. So we were right in the middle of the job, had to get this job done, and then I wound up taking him to the hospital where he wound up having emergency hand surgery. So they actually had to cut in and open up his entire palm and clean out all the drywall mud. And at the time, it's just he and I. So I'm like, okay, I have a whole fourplex to texture. How am I going to do this? Thankfully, my dad kind of rallied behind us, got us some guys, and we were able to get it textured, and I didn't have to get all of it done myself. But it really was one of those parts where we're like, what are we doing? Yes, we're making money. Yes, we're making good money, but how much are we working, and we're putting ourselves at risk doing all of these jobs and just taking on too much. So at that point, we actually decided to go ahead and subcontract for another drywall contractor, which was probably one of the best decisions we did for us individually, as a family, because it took so much off of our shoulders. So we worked for that company for about 4 years. We still worked a lot. We were still finishing over 250 boards a week. So we were still finishing a house and a half a week was our schedule. So we'd work Monday, we worked through Sunday, but we weren't working anymore until 2 o'clock in the morning, which was great. So we worked for them for a couple years. We got to do some really, really cool jobs. So if you know anything about Bozeman, we have the Yellowstone Club. Has anybody heard of the Yellowstone Club? Yeah? So it's very, very, very wealthy. We're talking you have to have $15 million in liquid assets to even be able to be considered to be in the Yellowstone Club. So we got to do some really, really fun houses up there. It's an hour-and-a-half drive away from where I am one way. So when we're working up there, we're doing 3 hours in drive time on a good day. It's a crazy mountain pass. There's accidents all the time. It snows. It's just kind of a crazy drive. And the homes up there are even crazier. So you have to go through an exclusive gate check. So you have to go through a gate, you have to have a pass, and then sometimes they even will take your phone away depending on whose house you're working on. So that's been a very interesting place to work. Most of the homes are anywhere from 5,000 floor footage to 10,000 floor footage. So we're talking these houses up there are in the 10 to $30 million range. So that was really fun, crazy experience. They're not very fun to work on. They're beautiful. They're crazy mountain modern architecture, but everybody is on top of everyone in those jobs. You have your electricians making changes. You have the tile setters setting tile in the bathrooms before you can get into the job. You have the painters right on top of you. You have tile guys, or trim guys trying to trim before you're done. So that was very stressful. It was great money. I mean, you can make a lot of money up in the Yellowstone Club, but it can be very taxing, and everybody's mad at each other. All the subs are all mad. The builder's stressed out. Everybody's everywhere. So we actually decided to stop going out there. I mean, it was great to work out there, but it was just not worth the headache. But some of the cool jobs, I think we worked on Sandra Bullock's house, and then maybe Tom Brady's. They don't tell you whose house it is, but you can kind of guess and get a little feel for whose house it is. We did some really cool stuff out there. There was one where they actually brought in guys from Italy to install their custom Italian cabinets. So they flew a whole crew from Italy to Bozeman, Montana, just to install their Italian cabinets. So it can be a little bit of a wild place to work at. Some cool jobs that we actually have done probably over the past couple years. We did a really cool modern custom home that had these huge windows. Like there was this whole glass slider that was over the entire living room. It was fantastic. It was very challenging. And that's one thing that I've learned with my job is I'm still challenged. Like I've been doing this 21 years, but there's still things that I walk into and I'm like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to make this work? How am I going to finish this so it looks good? And that's probably one of the best things that I love about my job is it's always changing, it's always evolving, there's always something fun. So the job that had the big window actually had 26 drywall cased windows. So we had to case 26 windows. And then we had over 106 10-foot sticks of corner bead. So there was 106 sticks of corner bead in there. And we went through 60 boxes of drywall mud. So that's definitely one I always will remember forever. It was so fun, but it was so taxing. One of my favorite jobs I've ever done was actually for my sister. So they lived in Salt Lake City, which was just a little, like about an hour and a half south of me via plane. And they were pregnant and they were going to have their first kid. So they're like, can you come down and help us? We only have a weekend. And they added a new master bedroom onto their house. So I flew down Friday, worked all Friday night, all Saturday, all Sunday, and then I got it done for them in time. It was not easy. They left all these beams in the entire room. So I had to cut all these little tiny pieces of tape everywhere. It was really fun though to be able to do that for them. And I think that's something that we forget about. Like if you are a finisher, you have a certain skill set that not other people have. So you really can use it for good, use it to help others, you know, help out family, help out friends, do all sorts of stuff that, you know, they can't do and you can make a difference in their lives. And that leads us to social media. So I post under the name Drywall Shorty on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I currently have over 1.5 million followers across all the social platforms. So that's insane. Sometimes my reach is up to, 75 million people in 90 days. I reach a lot of people, but it's been so fun because I can make such a difference. And I really want to encourage you guys, if you are thinking about starting social media, do it. 100% do it. It's so rewarding. I mean, it's not going to kick off super fast. You really have to have a plan, and then you have to just try and start. So some pieces of advice I could give you when you are starting, with social media, have a plan. I see so many people start and then they just taper off. They're out hard and heavy. They've got they're posting 5 times a day. They're making all this great content and then they just go silent. Pace yourself. Have a month's worth of content saved up before you even start posting. When I started, I had a goal to post almost every single day for a year. And sticking to that goal led me to really good growth and really good engagement because the social media platforms will reward you the more that you post. So say I take a break for a week, my reach starts to kind of drop off. So be super consistent. Does the content always have to be super engaging? No, it definitely doesn't. I have had videos go crazy that I didn't think anybody would want to watch. So just kind of get your plan, get some content built up, and don't stop posting. If you really want to make it work, you've got to treat it like a job. Another part of treating it like a job is to not take people speaking negatively about you personally. It can be very hard. I mean, I've had things I have a picture on Facebook that had 19 million views. Are all the comments going to be nice when you reach 19 million people? No, no, they are not. So you really just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. So the best thing I have done is I read a comment, I say, okay, and then I move on. If I sit there and I worry about it and I take everybody's opinion about me to heart, it won't work. You know, the biggest thing that I hold on to is, number one, I know how I finish. I know the jobs I produce. I know the people that I work with. I know the homeowners. I know what I can produce and the quality of the drywall that I am producing. So that's a huge thing for me to stand on. If I didn't have that, those comments would be pretty crushing. Like, they would definitely hurt. So make sure you check yourself before you start on social media that, number one, you're confident in your skill set. I wouldn't recommend like just starting out and then trying to post all these videos and try to reach people, because they're just going to be criticizing you. So try and be kind of an industry leader, have your stuff down. Sometimes it takes a couple takes. I'm definitely not perfect. There's times where we have to do things over and over again, or I can't get it right, or I'm not happy with how something looks. So it might look all nice and polished on social media, but there's quite a bit that goes into it on the back end with me figuring out how I want things to look, not being happy with how I'm doing it myself, and just kind of changing and tweaking things so that they look really good. Another thing about social media is it brings you to crazy places. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for social media. So the last year I got to go to Germany. Festool, the tool company, brought a bunch of us out to Germany, so we got to spend a week there, tour their headquarters, kind of play with some new tools, use all sorts of stuff, so that was fantastic. I'm also on the Build Show Network, so I do weekly drywall videos, and that has led to some other really cool opportunities, like going down to the International Builder Show in Las Vegas, all sorts of companies to work with. And one thing that I love is I have access to people that can give me answers. So if somebody's asking me a question, I can go and I can be like, oh, hey, I'll contact my person at USG, or I'll contact my person at Trimtex. And I really try to pass on that information and make a positive change in the drywall community. It can be really, really closed off. So one thing that I've always tried to do is kind of take the lid off of drywall finishing. Like, it's not going to hurt me if you guys know how to do some of these things. And I think the attitude in the industry is, you're taking away work from us. Nobody's taking away work from anybody if you're good. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, sharing some tips, some tricks, some ideas on how I do things, and just helping people be better finishers. There's nothing ever going to be wrong with that, and I absolutely love it. I get weekly emails from people that tell me how much I've helped them, how much I've changed their process, how I've helped them figure out how to use an automatic tool that they were having trouble with, and it's just so awesome. And you know, you can also make money off social media. Has anybody heard of like the Facebook bonuses or Facebook monetization? That can be huge. So if you are thinking about social media, like, yes, you can have great reach, you can help people, but you can also make quite a bit of money on there. I'm not sure what everything looks like in Brazil, but you know, you can also get sponsors. There's quite a bit of companies that sponsor me and my content, and I will make specific videos for them to kind of fill a niche or actually push a product that they're really looking into, you know, having out there, new product launches. You just got to start, and it's so fun. It's like, social media is so fun. It could be so rewarding. And you know, another thing to think about too is, if you own a small company or you own a large company, you should be on Facebook, Instagram, 100%. I don't know about you guys, but when I go to look for a company, or I go to maybe try a new restaurant, where are you checking? You're checking social media, right? You're Googling them, you're checking to see reviews, what their special is for the day. So if you have a small contracting business or a small drywall business or whatever it is that you're doing, be on social media. People want to see you. They want to see your face. They want to see the work that you're putting out. They want to know that you're actually still in business, because how many times have you called someone and you never get an answer, or you don't know if their company is closed? So for your business, it can be absolutely huge. I get at least a couple leads every month off of social media via email, phone call, through our website, any of those things. So you got to think, if you're not there, you're leaving money on the table for yourself and for your business. Facebook has pretty direct marketing options that you can get. There's a lot out there where you can target specific areas, genders, age ranges, what they're looking to spend on a project. So I would highly recommend Facebook. And then Instagram, you can do the same thing with, and you can, target certain demographics with your ads. It can really explode your business. I mean, I think we've all kind of seen these businesses that start and then they kind of go crazy on social media. So definitely think about using it to your advantage for your company. It doesn't really matter the size. And you know what? You never know what can happen. I actually didn't even have Instagram installed on my phone when I started like 5 years ago. So it's been absolutely crazy, and you never know. You just never know. So definitely give it a try. Have tough skin. Try Facebook marketing for your small businesses. Show your jobs. Show your face. Show what makes you stand out, and what makes your company special. I think we were going to do a little Q&A. Does anybody have any questions? Be more than happy to answer anything. No? No questions? Anyway, I think that is it for me. Thanks, guys.